Hey, welcome to the Transformational podcast. We're so glad you are joining us. And Chris, I'm not gonna lie, man, that tree behind you is looking really good. I mean, last time we had a little bit of a wiring issue, so
It was the
it was
little
on and off. The lights weren't twinkling.
twinkling. They were
The lights
tweaking.
aren't twinkling. The lights aren't twinkling, but they were definitely
They were
flashing.
problematic. So
They were problematic. Yeah.
we had to make a solution. Which the problem is now I can't switch it to color, so I'll have to either fix that, and it requires a specialty like a triangle head screwdriver to get into that little box.
Yeah, that guy.
Like, oh,
I know what you're talking about.
y'all just want
Yeah.
to buy a new one, but I think we can fix it. So I'm gonna find it.
Yeah, you can fix it. You can fix it.
I'm gonna drill out those holes. Watch me.
That's cool, Chris. Yeah, you were telling me. Yeah, well, hey, there's that. There's a lot of other ways you can get into that. Hammer. You just, and you could anyway. You were just telling me, and so I told you had to stop talking about it because I wanted to talk about it.
You're gonna bring this up.
I did.
Yeah.
So you finally upgraded your phone to the new iOS, because you have an Apple phone. You took it up to new iOS.
Well,
Chris, I had it like day after, but hey, whatever.
Well, I was 2 updates behind because my phone had become so full that you couldn't download it and whatever, because I typically have it on auto download. But I don't know. There were some issues with the way I'd set up my phone that it was storing stuff I didn't want it to store. So last night I had to go and be like, all right, what in the world is going on? Because I have all my pictures uploaded to a cloud, but then
old man, you were telling me you were having. Oh man, you were telling me you were having challenges with the new iOS, and I'm dying to talk about it. Let's hash it out here for all our friends. Oh wait, hang on, I see it, Chris.
Here's the problem.
What the problem is.
You're
can't
holding
see
your phone.
Anything.
You can't. It all like fades in. I was like, oh my gosh, I'm not going to be able to find a single app that way.
Yeah, you have it on the opaque setting. I'll take you.
The monochrome. So
you have the monochrome. I'll take you through that later after the podcast.
I'll have to set up a different.
They have more than one setting. It's not just monochrome. There's other ways.
Well, I did it on monochrome before I updated it, so it just carried my monochrome into the settings. So I will have to go back in and.
I see what you did there. I see what you did. Hey, so
I will say, Robert, like I'm kind of not a big fan of the fact that I feel like I'm starting to need my glasses more and more. I went to my men's group this past Tuesday night, and I'd pull it, and they all had a good laugh about the fact I was pulling out my glasses so that I could read something. They're like, "Yeah, why don't you put on their glasses there, Grandpa?" I was like,
"Hey, bud,
thanks, guys. Thanks."
I'm not gonna lie. I'll tell everybody because my team would know this. Is I now am that age where I keep them on my shirt.
Oh, man.
Because Chris, I can't even trim a fingernail now without.
Okay,
it's not that bad. It's not that bad. It's not that bad. But no, I know. I feel you. Hey, so what is going on in your world? How things going?
Man, good week. Just cruising through. We've had boys basketball. We've finally got some rain this week, which we needed. It was really dry out here. The Paradise football team won. I don't know if it was region or what they won last night, but they're in playoffs, won the second round playoffs. So it was, fun times, around here, just getting to see all the things and be a part of stuff. So what's going on in your world?
I forget that time of the year because where we're at, right? Football, I can hear it. There's an actual football stadium just across. It's not just across, but it's about a half mile from our house. So when they're playing, I can hear it in the rest. But football is their entire stadium up here, Chris. Their entire stadium can fit in the visitors section of our high school, high school, football stadium. Well, so it's just not the same.
For what it's worth, probably that could be said about our stadium at this, because it's a small town. I mean, we're 3A, but that could. We were at a bigger school back growing up, so but yes, I get what you're saying. Football is not necessarily, y'all's big schools have little school stadiums.
We do, I think basketball's bigger in here and the rest, but no, Chris, things are good here. We busy, I'll tell you that, busier than I like to be, but it is that season, right? So it's that season where you kind of wrap up a year when you're a volunteer. So you're a volunteer. One of the things, especially if you're a volunteer who agrees to help out through the holidays, what you find is you end up volunteering a lot through the holidays. So if you are that volunteer, what I'll tell you is hang in there, serve the Lord faithfully, and then tell your volunteer team that you want a little bit of a dial back starting in January and then go hard in February. But it is important, I think, to lean in during the holiday time frame. There's so many people who visit family and then visit churches because they visit with friends. And so your eternal impact when you're serving your church and you're serving the Lord through the holiday season is a lot more than I think you would ever imagine on this side of eternity. So we got that type of stuff. Yeah. And then of course I got big, normal work stuff, Chris. I call it the briefing gauntlet. Because it feels like a gauntlet. It's like, I want to say I have like 4 or 5 unassociated briefs for like really high people in the next 30 to 45, 60 days, something like that. And so what's fortunate about that is while you can't use the same brief for each person, you just take one and just keep going. You do use the same information. So at least you create it once and then you just massage it for what you're talking to when you're talking to, which isn't uncommon for most people, right? But no, things are good. And then I'm leaving today to do a youth retreat. They decided to bring their elder along.
That's good, man. Youth retreats, I love it. Staying at a camp.
I'm gonna look forward. Yeah, it's a no phone kind of thing. We're going to like a little it's like a Christian retreat kind of area where you get a big house and no distractions. We'll I think do a ropes course tomorrow. We're going to be talking about prayer. I'm excited because I'm going to be talking about learning to interact with the Lord, and how that sounds. What are you laughing about? What are you laughing about?
Y'all are talking about prayer, and you're going to go send some kids up on the high ropes course and be like, "Learn to pray now. Say your prayers."
That's right. That's right. We're going to develop that faith in them. That faith that we talked about last week. The faith that makes you really want to take a wild leap. But yeah, looking forward to it. I know we talked a little bit about where we wanted to go this morning. We just briefly talked to it, but I want to start in Daniel, if that's okay. And then
go for it.
Kind of land in Second Peter. But by way of like an introduction, and then Chris, you interrupt me if I missed something in this introduction. Get everybody kind of up to speed where Daniel is when he gets to the story of Daniel in the lion's den. Now, Daniel in the lion's den is in chapter 6 of the book of Daniel. But that's not where Daniel starts. In fact, Daniel starts
in Daniel chapter 1.
There you go.
They named the book after him.
No, that was well played. That was well played. No, yeah, it was good. That's good. I thought when I said it, I was like, but you never really showed the destination. Yes. So Daniel in the lion's den, he's with a king named Belshazzar. I mean, not Belshazzar. Sorry, he's with a king named Darius. And the thing that's interesting about Daniel, Chris, that I saw this week as I was reading through it, is he makes it through a bunch of kings, man.
Yeah. He survives the kings. Can we go back though and how they ended up in this is part of the Babylonian invasion and captivity. Right. So
part of their rule.
So I'm gonna try to summarize it big as good as I can, but God kept telling through prophets, Israel and Judah, hey, turn back to me. Turn back to me. If you don't, bad things are coming. And then basically you had a bunch of false prophets that said it's not going to be that bad. It's fine. God's okay. And Jeremiah was like,
keep sinning, you'll be fine.
Yeah, Jeremiah was like, that's not true. You better not listen to that.
Yeah.
Anyway, so the Babylonians come in, they capture everyone, leave some in the land to take care of the land, took many back to Babylon, and then selected from those who came back to Babylon the top notch creme de la creme, the cream of the crop,
cream of the crop. There you go.
And best looking, most intelligent, right?
So basically, they would have picked me. Is that what you're saying?
That's what I was saying. It's like Roberts, all of them. No, but yeah, took them in. But here's what's so crazy: gave them, Babylonian names that were actually they're named after false gods of the Babylonians, taught them Babylonian literature, gave them Babylonian food. And here's what's so interesting about the whole deal. They bring him in, and essentially what they're trying to do is turn them into Babylonians to get them. Now, that doesn't seem like that big of a deal here, because we could like move to Mexico and live, like they do in Mexico. And but it was different there, because their identity was very much attached to their culture, the Jews' culture and identity, and very much the things of the Babylonians they weren't allowed to do. They weren't allowed to eat some of the foods that the Babylonians ate, because they were offered to idols. They definitely didn't need to be called by the names of the false gods. So they bring him, man, I was going to try and make this short. They bring him in.
No, keep going.
And they're trying to strip them of their identity. And so they come in, it's Daniel, and then you've got, we know him as Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, which is their Babylonian names, right? Am I saying that? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, you're right. I actually looked up their Babylonian names. I just want to throw this down. Daniel's Babylonian name.
Yeah.
He was Belshazzar, I think, is what they called him.
Yeah.
And the actual name meant God is my judge. That's Daniel's name in Hebrew, is God is my judge. So in Hebrew, Daniel's name, so you talk about strip me of my identity, strip them of their identity. Yeah. Daniel's name in Hebrew is God is my judge. His name was changed to Belshazzar, which means Bel, protect his life.
Yeah.
So God is my judge to Bel, some other god, protect his life. So in other words, they're trying to, as you said, not just strip their identity, but to divert their attention and maybe even their focus and their heart to a different god. So interesting, huh?
Yeah. And I think I did a deep dive on this a couple summers ago. There's a great book called The Daniel Dilemma. By Pastor Chris Hodges. Highly recommend if you want to just really dig into a little bit more, because he just talks about he reflects it to how to stand out in a world that is trying to change your identity. You got it.
I love it. No, it's not a distraction. It's a smile, because you're going exactly where I was going today.
All right, go ahead.
How to stand out in a world that's maybe doesn't align with your identity, doesn't align with who you are. So Daniel did get assimilated. He did not eat the regular food. He did get appointed to be one of Nebuchadnezzar's, wise people, or whatever they want to call them. He ends up interpreting a dream for Nebuchadnezzar, saves the entire wise folks' lives. Basically, the gist is Nebuchadnezzar had a dream. He says, "Hey, everybody, you have to tell me my dream and then interpret it." And all the wise men are like, nobody can do that. Yeah, nobody can do that. Yeah, nobody can do that. And actually, Daniel goes right before him and says, "Hey, King, I want to be very clear. No man can do what you're asking them to do.
Yeah.
But I serve a God who's bigger than man."
That's right.
And he tells him his dream, and then tells him what it means. And then, he kind of goes through. Nebuchadnezzar thinks a lot of himself, has another dream, calls Daniel in. Daniel has to tell Nebuchadnezzar, "Sorry, dude, you're going to be eating grass like a cow for 7 years."
Yeah.
Which ultimately does happen.
Yeah. Because of his pride, which is amazing.
Because of his pride.
Isn't it crazy? Right. I found that deal, that part of that crazy, is that God warned someone he was not a godly man. Yeah. He warned him through Daniel. And I just wonder how much of that is he shared in the fact that God had appointed him for that time to rule over God's people because of their sin. But yet God is going, but because you're ruling over you benefit from the fact that you're ruling over my people. That I'm
Chris, there's quite a bit in Daniel that I wonder, where God revealed to the kings of Babylon, future events, like Nebuchadnezzar's dream when he interprets the man with the golden head and then goes all the way down. That is a vision, basically a prophetic vision of the coming of Christ.
Yeah, that's pretty cool, isn't it?
You know what I'm saying? But it went not through Daniel, interpreted it, but it didn't come through Daniel.
No.
See what I'm saying? Really interesting. So we're not going to go there, though.
All right. So we've got to get to where we need to go. There's so much we could dig into. So
I love Daniel.
Ahead.
I love Daniel. Daniel is good. So anyway, here's the thing that I found interesting about Daniel. He made it through a bunch of kings. I'll just summarize it this way. He made it through a bunch of kings.
Meaning
he gets to the next king, which is Belshazzar. That king gets literally destroyed, taken over by an entire kingdom, Chris. An entire kingdom. The Persians come in, Medes and Persians. And then what does Daniel do? He finds himself working for the king of Persia.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where we're at in Daniel 6. And he's made it through that many kings because you were going to say, meaning.
Yeah. Well, just meaning that when I say he made it through them, meaning that their throne was conquered, or they died, they were conquered, they're taken over, but he survived the handing over of kingdoms. So while
because
kings didn't survive it, he survived it, I think is what I'm trying to say.
Because he served an eternal kingdom.
That's right.
He served an eternal kingdom. And so while he was there, and I'm sure he didn't necessarily want to work for the Babylonians nor the Medes or the Persians.
Yeah.
That's where he found himself. And when he was there, this is verse 3, we'll start there. It says, now Daniel so distinguished himself among the administrators and the satraps by his exceptional qualities that the king planned to set him over the entire kingdom. Think about that, man.
That's pretty wild, man.
Yeah. And this is a guy who was basically served and was a wise person under the Babylonian Empire.
Yeah.
So what you're seeing here is you're seeing an individual who, I think what I would classify him as is he recognized he didn't serve the kingdom, the earthly kingdom. He served God. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And the reason why that matters is because it didn't matter who he served on earth, because he still served a God in heaven. And that allowed him to do his job with exceptional
excellence.
With exceptional qualities.
Yeah. I thought because of the thing I think about is that, like, that's why your work ethic matters, right?
Absolutely.
Because it's not necessarily just God uses when you work with the excellence, and you do with a great attitude, great effort, and God goes, yeah, I gave those to you for a reason. And his purpose wasn't what he was doing for the Babylonian Empire, or his purpose wasn't what he was doing for the Medes. His purpose was the fact that God had placed him in those kingdoms.
Yep.
For specific reasons, for influence, and we get to see those stories today.
Yeah. And you made me think while you were saying that is Colossians 3:23, the verse that I've had memorized for quite some time. And it says, whatever you do, work at it with all your heart as working for the Lord and not human masters.
Yeah.
Now, the reason it says here is since you know that you will receive an inheritance from the Lord as a reward. It is the Lord Christ you are serving. And I've said this very directly sometimes to at least one or two supervisors that I knew it wouldn't, push them over the edge as far as making them mad. I've said, hey, just to be clear, like I don't work for you. I mean, like I work, but it's okay because I technically work for the Lord. I serve him. And because I serve him, he has a higher standard for me.
Yeah.
And so it's of benefit to you that I see it that way.
Yeah. Now, I wouldn't recommend doing what Robert just said just to anyone, but it's good to have that mindset regardless. Yeah.
No, I don't say it to everybody, and that is very true. So anyway, the thing that got me is, so he goes through here, and what's fascinating, Chris, is, and I wasn't planning on even covering this today, but it just came out now, is because he was about to be put over the whole kingdom. What happened, right? The administrators and the satraps tried to find grounds for charges against Daniel and his conduct of government affairs, but they were unable to do so. They could find no corruption in him because he was trustworthy and neither corrupt nor negligent. So think about this.
So that's Daniel 6 verse 4.
Yeah, Daniel 6 verse 4 says that basically he's about to be put over the kingdom, and his opposition is from folks who, frankly, I'm going to say it's just jealous. It's jealousy, power hungry, power thirsty, the world, trying to beat him down, right? But his conduct was clean.
Yeah.
So how did they have to go attack him?
They had to attack the only way that they could find, that they could create an offense against him, really.
That's right. They had to create an offense against him based on his religion, and that's really what it says. The men in verse 5 says, finally, these men said, we will never find any basis for charges against this man, Daniel, unless it has to do something with the law of his God.
So his faithfulness to God protected him because they couldn't find anything wrong with him. But it was his faithfulness. So they were like, so I guess we have to find something wrong with his faithfulness to God.
I know. How crazy, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, they get him to sign. They get the king to sign a law that is appeals to the king's pride.
Yeah.
The king signs it, which basically says, "Hey, you can't pray to anybody. You're going to be thrown in the lion's den. You have to pray to me and me only." This is what Darius has signed into law. And at that time, the way the laws were written or done or executed, if you're not familiar, is that when a law went into effect, not even the king could repeal that law. That was a law that even the king himself had to, adhere to. So once it was put into place, and the king, the fellas, so to say, who were jealous, they went to Daniel's house, and what did they find Daniel doing? Praying.
He went to his upstairs room and opened the window toward Jerusalem, as he did 3 times a day.
Yeah, 3 times a day. And we'll come back to this part because this is the part that I wanted to anchor on, but I want to finish the story of the lion's den if you're not totally familiar. So King Darius, really distraught, ends up having to throw Daniel in the lion's den. I find this very interesting. It even drove King Darius, a pagan king, to spend the night without eating. And it basically says, in my other version, it says he essentially fasted, and which is funny because it actually drove him to a non religious version of what we would do when we're torn by something. We go spend time with the Lord and like fasting and prayer kind of thing. That's where it kind of drives Darius. Anyway, so Darius comes in the next morning. Daniel's fine, and they take care of that. All the folks who accused Daniel went into the lion's den, and frankly went in the lion's den with their family. It was bad for them. But I was thinking, Chris, this is what I wanted to talk about, is Daniel was ruling the kingdom.
Mm-hmm.
So probably not a low stress job, is my guess. Daniel was now accused, and essentially, first of all, he saw the law. So, right, that's probably pretty stressful.
Yeah.
He continues to do his thing, and now he's accused, and he's about to be thrown into the lion's den. And I thought to myself, you know what probably prepared him for that moment, probably more than anything else, aside from the fact that he's old or whatever? It was probably his daily routine with the Lord.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know what I mean?
Yeah, because he showed up. He daily showed up. I love that term. That's something that you said when we first started this podcast a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
And I think that it's one of those that I've held on to. And it's something we use when we talk about, when I used to talk about working out and, for getting ready for sports or whatever, is that you have to show up every day. Well, man, in the same way, you got to show up. That's the first step to this relationship with Jesus. And you see it in Daniel's life. He showed up. And he had this routine. Now, part of that was their religious tradition was the 3 times a day. But he, even after being conquered, even after being taken to a foreign land, even after serving in a pagan kingdom that had false gods, trying to strip them of their identity, he said, "No, I know who I am. Because I know who you are." But that being said,
song reference check.
There you go. Yeah, there it is. But that being said, why was he so confident? I think you're right, 100%. Because he showed up. He continued regardless of his circumstances. He showed up.
Yeah, and I think that's the thing right there. It was the regardless of his circumstances. He knew, probably life was already stressful. And you're right, he was doing it 3 times a day. And I do think, though, that you could probably safely say one of the reasons they're in exile is more than likely the Israelite people, the Jewish people, weren't doing what the 3 times a day thing, right? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, they turned from God.
Yeah, and because he was showing up and he was spending time in prayer with God, I think that helped. But here's the other thing, Chris, and I think sometimes this is what happens to us. It happens to me sometimes, is when the stresses of life really come in, you know what I'm talking about? Sometimes we end up sometimes shoving back. Kind of being like, hey, you know what?
Back, for sure.
Yeah, I'm too busy. I don't have enough time. I'm tired. I don't have the same amount of time to sit and dedicate. I get just distracted. I don't think about it. And so one of the things I've been carrying with me, especially since I read this here this week, is okay, as you're walking through the normal stresses of the day, it's because it's normal stresses, Chris. Like we all like to think our stresses aren't normal. I was sorry, just real quick, because I have some friends who are dealing with some pretty just honestly got to be some stressful stuff. One of their kids went into the national hospital with leukemia, very young. And I was thinking like as stress as my job is, and sometimes I think stressful as my job is, sometimes I think I'm unique. Like I own the corner, I own the market on stress. I have the market cornered on stress, right?
Yeah.
Nobody could be as stressed as I am in my job.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Yeah. And then I think about them and I'm like, no,
that sucks.
Yeah. It's not that bad. And, I know these folks, they're friends of mine, Christ followers. And here's the thing that I would offer is I know they're doing the same thing Daniel did here, which is they're continuing to show up. They're continuing to go to the Lord. And so when Daniel was under the threat of death by a lion, I don't know that anybody could ever say that in their life.
You're not lying about that.
Yeah, exactly. He went and did his normal routine. He made sure he prioritized the things that were keeping him above board, faultless, blameless.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, when people who can make up a law can't find anything wrong with you, that's saying something. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So anything more, because I want to jump to 2 Peter.
No, I think that the jump is really where we are going is the whole idea of he was walking faithfully with God. Really, he wasn't. He was. But in here, I guess here's the deal: when you walk faithfully with God, it's difficult for others to find fault with you. That's the idea that we see there, is that because God's not going to lead you to do things that violate other people.
That's right.
I think about the fruit of the Spirit: love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, self-control. But then it says, against these things there is no law. right? It basically saying, look, everyone would agree our world would be better if we lived like this, if this is what ruled our lives. And so when I see that with Daniel, I'm like, that's what he's talking about.
Yeah.
Is that he lived in such a way that they're like, no one would ever make a law against the way that guy's living. He's living the way that, like, we wish everybody would live, right?
Yeah. No, totally. And so one of the things that happens in the morning, and we talk about this kind of just our daily routine.
Let me pause real quick.
No, go.
I want you to talk about that. But along those lines, like, I believe that when you live in that way, God gives you great favor because of the way that he moves through you. Like, I think that's part of the reason that he was elevated. He gained great favor because he was demonstrating the attributes of God, is what it really comes down to. He's demonstrate the attributes of God in the way that he lived his life. I think that so often the thought is, well, if I live that way, people will take advantage of me. If I live that way, then I won't get the most out of life. If I like Daniel's going, that's not true.
Yeah.
Check this out. Hold my coffee and watch this. That's what you see with Daniel's life, is he's going, look, you're afraid of what you're going to miss out on if you truly live the way God designed you to live. And I'm telling you, you should be afraid of what you're going to miss out on if you don't.
Yeah, the Bible is full of that, Chris. That's the one thing. When you said that, I was like, actually, if you think about it, if you just were to go do a case study for those who did exactly what you're talking about, which is, live in a way that doesn't violate others, which is basically a demonstration of the fruits of the Spirit, that God does give you favor with how you live. And Joseph is another example of that.
Yeah.
As somebody who got elevated because he lived in a way that didn't violate others, and people kept putting him in charge.
Yeah.
So we talk about this. My reading Bible is a 1-year Bible. It's in the show notes if you ever want to know which one it is. They still sell it. This is what it looks like right now. It's probably got a couple more years in it. Eventually what happens, Chris, is sometimes, because I read it with coffee.
Yeah.
Sometimes
you'll probably need to get the next version with the larger print in it pretty soon. But
for some reason, once you started, I knew where I was going. Immediately what you were about to say, and I thought that was
all right. So let's roll into the other part where you connected this. Yeah.
So 2 Peter. So I'm reading this, and this is really what pulled it all together for me that day. And Second Peter, I love, by the way, Peter, the way Peter writes. He writes like a normal human.
It reminds me of the fact that they said when they saw the disciples, like, who are these people? They're not educated men, but they act like men who have been with Jesus.
Yeah. I like Peter because he sounds like me. I'm like, yeah, I like this guy. Like when I read him, he just sounds like me. Well, anyway, it was in Second Peter. He's actually talking about the day of the Lord. And God coming back as a thief in the night, and what's going to happen this blink of an eye, and for us to be in expectation of it, because his being, and he uses that, doesn't use air quotes, but I could imagine him writing it with air quotes. His slow in coming is his patience, so that no one will perish. But then he gets into verse 14, 2 Peter 3, verse 14, and it says, "So then, dear friends, since you are looking forward to this," that coming of the Lord, that's what he's talking about. "Since you're looking forward to this, make every effort to be found spotless, blameless, and at peace with him. Bear in mind that our Lord's patience means salvation, just as our dear brother Paul also wrote to you with the wisdom of God, or that God gave him." Yeah, we have to do the next verse just because it actually does cover what I just said. It says, "He writes the same way in all his letters, speaking in them of these matters. His letters contain some things that are hard to understand, which ignorant, unstable people distort, if they do other scriptures to their own destructions." So anyway, I think that's the part that I was like, I see it now. This is Daniel in the New Testament. This is what Peter's talking about. This is a represent, or Daniel is a physical representation of what Peter is talking about here.
It's the the whole idea of make every found living blameless. If you go back up to verse 11 just a little bit, it says, "Since everything around us is going to be destroyed like this," like he just talks about.
Yep.
"What holy and godly lives you should live," right? "Looking forward to the day of God hurrying it along. On that day, he'll set all these things in motion, but we're looking forward to the new heavens and new earth he's promised, the world filled." So he's saying, man, look forward, leaning forward into what's to come. And let that be your motivation, is really what he's saying. Let the motivation of going, and I guess I think about it like this. Daniel knew that he was probably going to die in the land of a foreign land. Yeah. But he leaned forward going, it's all right. I know what God's told me. And I mean, but he's telling us. So do we know when Jesus is coming back? We don't have the day or the time. But what we do know is he says, hey, but I want you to live leaning forward to the return. Lean into the, and let that be your motivation to live blameless lives, peaceful lives that are pure and blameless. I like that peaceful part.
Yep.
Because I think where God's presence is, there is peace.
Where the presence of the Lord is, there's freedom.
There's freedom for sure.
But we're just talking about the peace.
Sorry. The peace, yeah. I think that so often I think about your stressful life, your friend's stressful life, and things like that. Why do we need to show up? Because man, when you intentionally step into and like God's with us all the time, so I always want to be like, you're not inviting the Lord in; He's already there, right? What you're doing is you're acknowledging, you're intentionally acknowledging His presence, and when you begin to recognize and acknowledge His presence and get to experience His peace in your life, like it really doesn't matter what, like we're going to go through ups and downs. Why? Because we're living in a foreign land. Like really, this is a reflection of the fact that we are not of this world anymore. Like when you're a follower of Jesus, you're now in a new kingdom. It's a spiritual kingdom. And we're looking forward to the day that God will come and rescue us. Literally, like it is a shadow. The things you see in the Old Testament is a shadow of what's to come.
Absolutely.
And Jesus, and which is also why he gives us, this messianic prophecy through Daniel, visions. But that being said, it's one of those things of, man, let's lean forward and live in such a way that God can use the way we live our lives through excellence, through the way we treat people, basically that no one can find fault with us, but God continues to elevate us.
Yeah. The foundation.
And I'm not saying that live that way and God's going to give you the boss man job. That's not what I'm saying. But I mean, he allows you to have influence because you live that way.
Yeah. And I say this to, when we had the small group where we had young marrieds, folks that were early in their career and things like that. And, there's always a tension, I think a healthy tension, by the way, for those who are following Christ, to be like, well, do I try to get to the next job? Do I try to promote? Do I try to this and that? And I always tell them, like, look, as long as you got your eyes fixed on the Lord and asking him where he wants you to go and bringing him glory in what you do, he does like to increase our sphere of influence when our sphere of influence brings peace and brings that kind of, like you said, that sense of favor, those fruits of the Spirit to those around us. The thing I like about this verse here, Chris, is, and you hit it around it and hit it, and we talk about it all the time, is it says make every effort.
Yeah.
And it's not a sense of perfection, as we talk about,
but direction.
That's right. It's a sense of direction. Yeah. And so I don't know, when I was thinking about making every effort, I was like, what do I make effort for? Like, like practically speaking, there's times when I'm thinking to myself, like, what do I actually make effort for?
Yeah.
And, and what does that look like? And I tell Josh this, my youngest son, right? And when he's going to go, he plays drums. That's his drum kit behind us. I've played it before, but I'm not that great. But he's the drummer. And he's practicing a lot. Everywhere he goes, he's tapping, whatever, the whole 9 yards. I tell him, I'm like, look, dude, like you got to put in the work. You got to put in the work. And when you put in the work, it will increase your skill. If you like what you're doing, you like what it is, that the skill that God's given you, then you have to put in the work. And it's that making the effort piece. And so I think about, even in my own personal life, as I'm going through this next season, a part of what God's kind of, I think, just revealing to me in this time, or reminding me of, because we need reminders. We're forgetful. I think you talked about that once, that sometimes it's a reminder to us, is that a part of living that spotless and that blameless and that peace with him life is that effort that we make. And that effort we make looks a lot like what Daniel was doing through his time in Babylon, which is not a great place to be, which is showing up in the morning, making sure that I take time to, I'm going to say center myself, but to refocus myself throughout the day on God's hand of provision. Even yesterday, I was walking through the hallway, and it was one of those moments where I was like, oh man. And I was starting to kind of like let myself kind of ratchet up a notch in the worry. I'm like, hang on, when has the Lord ever not showed up? All right, calm down.
Yeah.
So, but we need reminders, Chris, and that's the make every effort piece. And so I liked how the Lord connected the two things, the Daniel Old Testament passage, to what Peter is saying here in 2 Peter. And this is really, if you're joining us, the purpose of this podcast, as far as from the transformational piece, is to just share with you what the Lord's teaching us, and not just what, but also how, so that as you're walking through it yourself, as you're making the effort, as you're showing up, and you're trying to figure out, what is God showing me and what does he want me to do? What that looks like, and maybe even begin to develop what it looks like even in your life, because it's not the same, and it's not always the same in every season. And so with that, Chris, I'll give you the final pastor words. You nailed it last week. I don't have high expectations today.
Yeah, best like you will. I look at both of these passages, and I think here's the reality, is like both you can try. Your goal could be to elevate yourself and to compete with the world. But when you make faithfulness your goal, you'll experience God's faithfulness in your life.
Amen.